All righty. So we have Bryan Self with ICT Pro Inspections today. Welcome in.
Hey, Larry.
How are we doing?
Appreciate doing good, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So Bryan, you have a home inspection business. Tell us about it. How the heck did you get into home inspections, and how do you operate?
Um, so I got into home inspections. Started building the company in 2021. I'm pretty methodical, so I like to lay everything out. And as you probably know, one of the first things that I learned was Kansas is not a licensed state for home inspections or home inspectors or companies or anything like that. I am on a committee that is trying to work to get that changed in Topeka. I work. I follow a lot of stuff down in Texas. They do Trek down there, which is
Okay.
they've got license. They do things pretty licensed. It's a little bit stricter down there. You can't just grab a flashlight and say grab a business card and say you're a home inspector. When I got into that, realized it. One of the things that made me get into it even was I used to travel a lot for work, and I didn't ever get a house until later in life because I was living in hotels, and it's kind of hard to maintain a house. Man, living in hotels and being gone all the time. Well, anyway, I finally bought a house, and it was an eye-opening experience. I mean, you're like everyone's saying, buy a house; it's an investment. And you're like, yeah, into Lowe's, Home Depot,
Yep.
HVAC services, and then I started to realize, okay, you need a lot of people in your corner when you're buying a house.
That is true.
Your realtor, such as yourself, your mortgage people, inspection companies, termite, you name it. I mean, like you're just thinking, like, who, what, a title company I got, So I was like, man, this is an area I love to be able to help out people. I was always a jack of all trades, and I was like, I really, really enjoy this, but this experience was like, how many other people need help when they're buying a house, and what ways could I possibly help them out and create my own business from that? And I had an interesting. My inspector missed some things, which then got me thinking about that, and I talked to some realtor friends, and it was kind of costly on me. And I think he did a good job. I'm not, bashing anybody. I think everybody can miss things, but I'm like, you know, what all does that entail? I like that. Having you're getting outside, you're getting up on the roof, getting into crawl spaces, seeing different things. And so I started researching all that. I found out about the certificate or the license issues. And so then I wanted to do above and beyond. I feel like, okay, if this state doesn't have requirements, then go above and beyond. So we went ahead and got triple certified. So I'm certified with ASHI standards, InterNACHI, and also CCPIA for commercial property inspections. Uh,
Oh,
so we do that as well, which is a whole interesting, different ball game. So but fun, exciting as well. It's definitely not, your standard house. We've inspected, car washes and commercial buildings and some interesting buildings.
yeah.
Some that are multi-purpose, where you might have a couple apartments up top, and then you've got commercial space down below, things like that. So started that in 2021. I didn't actually go live and take any clients because I wanted to iron out a lot of things until 2022. So that
Okay.
was kind of my slow progress into that because, again, I like to get all my ducks in a row and make sure that when I'm finally taking, a paying client. So we did a lot of mock inspections and free ones and stuff like that before then. But when I'm actually doing that, I'm providing a valuable service.
Yeah. So what does I guess what does it look like to like inspect a car wash? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I mean, if you think about it, anything could use a different set of eyes on it. So, a car wash, you still got a roof. It's got walls. I mean, it's got a lot of water, flowing
Yeah.
through there. And, water, as you know, is one thing we love to have in our house when it's coming out of the faucet, when it's
Yes.
washing our dishes. when it's just coming in on willy nilly, it's
Yeah.
that's the one
Uh,
we don't want. So
Different
with a car
story there.
wash, yeah, I mean, you could imagine like some of the things we saw just from those sprayers hitting other areas of metal, I mean, in and around a car wash. You got the concrete structure. You do have a mechanical room in there. They've got obviously a lot of plumbing areas, but that mechanical room will have a heater. So you do have some of the same elements that you have during that. You've got electrical and a lot of water. So I mean, like
Those two mix.
yeah, yeah, like oil and vinegar.
Yep.
But so very interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's still aspects, to inspecting that are not like a house, but you've got some different things that you'll still be able to go and provide value. And I mean, like that helped to negotiate a deal for the commercial buyer, and they've used us on quite a few different interesting properties. So,
So I saw, I see, because I watch all your videos that you put out. Um, Tell me about how your little cat pictures and videos got started. Like,
that was
what's the story behind that?
all of my stuff is kind of interestingly transitioned to what it is. I mean, in the beginning, I had no idea. I didn't start doing any social videos or anything like that until last year. Like, so I'd been in the business for 6 months to a year, 8 months. And I'm like, I need to get, you've got to have a presence online, for branding, for people getting to know you.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I got to do some videos. So that started down that track. And then I did the Did You Know? The Looks Good, Look Suspect was my 15-year-old niece being like, you need to do a 15-second video. And I'm like, what? Nobody's going to pay attention to that. What do you even talk about in 15 seconds? She's like, bro, because kids call everyone bro. And she's
Yep.
like, bro, 50, a minute, 60 seconds is too long. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So that's how I had to do the looks good, look suspect, because you got 15 seconds to like see something. The cats kind of came about. I've got two cats. They're always getting into mischief. And I was, and then you're going into people's homes, and a lot of the times, like yesterday on the inspection, we had a couple cats there, and they're doing funny stuff. Like these cats yesterday, two of them were on the bed when I come in. They look at me like, we're not moving, like, what are you doing in the house? I even shined the laser, and they're like, no, no. And then after a while, one of the cats crawled itself underneath the blanket. And I was like, I've never seen that. But so I was like, hey, cat animal observations, because we'll be out on houses in the country and see goats and dogs and horses and stuff like that. And I was like, that's something different that maybe provide some entertainment for people to follow me. I get
Yep.
a lot of cat people on that giving comments, so my cats are Bagheera and Blue. Um, Mom talked me into them. I'm not even, like I don't have animals like traveling all the time. I did have a cat that Mom had originally talked me into. It had passed, and Mom's like brings home this little kitten because I was like, I don't want any more animals, Mom. I just, and then she's like, I got this for you, and I'm like, what? I told you. And she's like, well, I already adopted it, so either you take it or we don't know what's gonna happen. And I'm like, fine.
She gave you a 20-year commitment.
Yes, she did. It's fine. Okay, that was bad enough that she brings this little cute kitten, right? And then she goes, so when I finally agree to that, and I think she planned this out, she's like, she has a sister. And I'm like, oh, she does. And she's like, I had to leave her there by herself. They were brought in, their mom got ran over, and so they were lonely, and her little sister was drinking milk, looking up at me all sad because, I had to leave her there. And I was like, well, we can't break up a family. So that's how I have two cats.
Yep.
And
There
then the
you
cat
go.
observations kind of started because they do some interesting stuff. And then it just kind of transitioned. I think that as you probably with, your social media and stuff, you kind of start off with an idea and then it kind of,
It branches off into other things.
yeah, it definitely does branch off into some different things. And I feel like the natural way that it branches off and getting feedback and stuff like that is the best way to do it.
Yep. So what is your process? So we call you for a home inspection, or go online, or I guess how does that work for you?
So you can call. You can go online. We do online scheduling. You can shoot an email, text even. So, and then we've on our call-in line, we've actually got a service now that answers the phone, and they are all trained. They only work with inspectors. They're actually when I work with the people down in Texas, they use it's called America's Call Center, and they're awesome. So they're fully trained on what I do. They represent ICT Pro Inspections. They talk to the realtor. They're going to talk to you about how are the utilities on, because that's something that people don't always think about.
Yep.
Especially if the house is vacant, because we can't do a good thorough inspection if the utilities aren't on.
I always tell all my sellers, make sure you keep all the utilities on.
Yep, yep, because it can definitely impede. You don't want to do, and that's something for the listeners. If if any of the utilities are off, wait until they're turned on, because whether it be water, whether it be gas, whether it be electricity, you're gonna not be able to do a full inspection if you don't have that.
Right.
So, so we usually will try and reschedule something like that. Just had a recent one where the power was off. Seller said they didn't know anything. Evergy had somehow cut it off. It somehow miraculously, in like, I was like, well, fine, we'll go ahead and do the exterior. We're here, but we may have to come back to do, finish up any exterior lights and stuff, and then do the interior. And it came on just as soon as we were done with the exterior, so it worked out. Sometimes they do that, but yeah. So that's kind of the process as far as scheduling. Usually I like to let everyone know. What do you usually have? Like a 10 business day window is kind of standard. Sometimes adjust.
Yeah, I mean, normally I put into our contracts anywhere between 5 to 10 business days. It really just it kind of depends on what we get negotiated.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, as you know, nothing in real estate is necessarily standard,
Yeah.
but we have those options to put. Technically, we could put 1 or 0 or however many days our buyers want.
Yeah.
But we know that our you guys are not always available the very next day, so
Yeah.
we got to give us some leeway. So yeah, I normally put between 5 to 10 business days.
Yeah, and I think that can even adjust if the sellers get the utilities turned off. I mean, like,
Right.
isn't that something? You guys do all the magic with the negotiations, and I mean, like, I am impressed on what you as realtors have to handle, because I feel like you guys juggle everything else, from the mortgage part to the inspection to, everything in between, and then working with the selling agent and all of that. Or if you're the selling agent, vice versa. So,
Yep.
yeah, definitely kudos to you guys on doing that. I don't think you guys always get as much accolades as you need on just
Uh,
for herding kittens.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there definitely is days like that, but we catch a lot of flack. But I think whenever people actually get into and realize what it takes to be successful, because I mean, don't get me wrong, any Joe Schmo could go get their license and say, "Hey, I'm an agent now." But are they going to be good at it? Are they going to be a good agent for their client? That's another story.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I hear you on
um,
that. Same kind of thing with inspection companies. So,
yep,
I always want to let everyone know, I appreciate it if you use us, but if you don't, at least go and do your research. Check to see if
yes,
they're at least certified. Look for Internachi, ASHI. Those are the top two certification companies in basically the nation.
yeah,
But look for also insurance. Make sure that they're carrying insurance, because if they make a step wrong and they come through the attic, somebody's got to take care of that.
yep.
And you don't want somebody just trying to fix it themselves real quick while you're gone.
Ha,
Make sure make sure on that.
has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. yeah, funny story on that one. So we were doing a flip for a guy, a investor that I'd met with, and we're doing the inspection. It's going along fine. Older house. It was in the before he's gonna fix it state, right? So
Okay.
it's definitely not perfect inside. Well, I'm upstairs in the attic, and there is boards everywhere going along here. Normally, you can see rafters, trusses, and everything like that. There's all these random boards, and I'm walking along trying to secure my footing, um, and I step on a board that is not secure, and it rolls me forward, and I step through. But then instead, like if I didn't roll, I probably would have went through the whole um, ceiling, but I did not. I rolled a little bit, got secure on grabbing onto something, and then I'm like, oh, though that's awesome, right? That could have been worse. But I get back, get myself secure, and go down to look and see what all the damage. Obviously, you can. One thing is looking down. The other thing is when you're looking up in the living room, right? Because it was in the living
Yeah.
room, and I immediately go out. The buyer was there. Um, the agent was there. They had a nice laugh. Like I was overly concerned about this, feeling horrible. Like, hey, what do I need to do to fix this? And they're like laughing at me. And they're like, you're not the first one that's gone through that ceiling. Like, and I was like, and so there was another huger hole that had been not really well patched up, but you could see where somebody may have fully gone through there.
Yeah.
And and so talked to the buyer, and then I called the seller's agent and talked with them about it, and she just laughs at me too because she's like, you're not the first person to go through the ceiling there. And I'm like, well, somebody needs to do something about those boards. So got everything worked out. I cleaned it up, took care of it, and the investor was like, "Man, you're more concerned about this than I am." But again, I feel like you want somebody working for you that is going to feel that way and not try
Yeah.
and not try and minimize something. So that was one of my funny stories. Thankfully, it wasn't you know, a house that somebody's living in, and all of a sudden, they're come home to a hole in the ceiling or anything.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, those are some of the things that you've got to got to be a little bit mindful of that more than likely are going to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, like I'm not Spider-Man or anything, so
You could be. You just
yeah.
have to get bit by one of the spiders.
I'm hoping for that. It would make roof inspection. It'll make a lot of things a lot easier, because I wouldn't need a ladder. I mean,
Exactly.
that would save on buying ladders and stuff like that.
Yep. So what does your you show up to the house, what's the first thing that you guys do?
So, first thing that I like to do is, obviously we figured out access, whether the
Hmm.
realtor's meeting us. We've got Supra, so we can get in if it's vacant. There's a CBS code. The first thing I like to do is get a lay of the land. I mean, do pictures on the outside. We do about 400 to 600 pictures per property, and those are for liability, and then also to help the. We don't always give them all of those pictures because in a report because that would just be
That
horrendous.
yeah, that'd be a long, long, long
Yeah.
report.
And we do a robust report, and I do include pictures, but not 400 or
Right.
600. But again, that's came in play whenever somebody's had issues later on, and we can say, hey, here's a picture of that at the time of inspection. And so we've had it help buyers out, and sellers and agents and all of that. But we're doing a lay of the land, and then I'm going inside and assessing, what's the initial inside looking like. Then come back outside. I like to start at the roof. So we kind of work in a roof down approach. So let's say it's a 2-story. So I'm going up on the roof, and then after I'm done with the roof, I'm going to do the exterior, and then I'm going to do the garage, attached garage, and then I'm going to do the attic. So I've seen the roof, and then I've done the exterior, and then I can see the attic. That way, if I notice, because I've had things where I notice a issue on flashing on the roof, and I'm like, I think that might be leaking. Well, then I get into the attic, and then I see watermarks. And then, I get down to the laundry room and I see like a little spot, and then you get out a thermal camera and, there's this much water in that wall right there. So being able, you kind of playing detective a little bit.
Yeah.
So working our way down. So once we come inside, we go to the highest level in the house. Obviously, after I do the attic, but then we're going. If it's the second level, I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to do whatever rooms are up there. Bathrooms run water at the sinks. We do a pressure test on that, where you fill up the bowl a little bit over halfway to full, and then it creates a little bit more pressure on the drain system. And you're doing all that, and then you're coming down to the main level, and then if there's a basement, you go into that, because everything kind of flows down, especially with water. So if I go and I do the basement first, and then I go upstairs and I run water, I might not see what's down there. So
Right.
got to have a pretty set way. It makes everything more efficient. That's how we do every inspection. Unless there's variables. Sometimes there can be variables where we got to come back and do something, but we like to keep that. It keeps everything on a good path and helps ensure that we're not missing anything. Then once we get done with the inspection, we've looked at everything. Also, we write our reports on while we're doing it. So we are not taking pictures and then trying to remember something later on in the evening, because that's difficult to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually do the report. We have iPads that we write everything, take pictures, everything as we're doing it, so we're not missing anything or trying to remember something later. Once we're done with everything, we like to meet with the buyers and the agent and then go over everything. I like to have a very communication approach, educational, and be able to talk to them on location. That way, if there's any questions, they can see what it might be. So, I'm gonna either take pictures and or videos, because sometimes video is going to capture a leak better, and then I'm also going to have a written description to go with that and say, hey, it's in bedroom 2, or it's in the bathroom upstairs, it's on the roof. And then we go over that. I feel like that's kind of, I like to have almost a doctor's bedside manner, as in you're going in, you're saying, hey, here's what we saw, explaining it too. If I can't go in and be like, you're missing GFCI, and then walk out, that's scary. You're like, what he threw an acronym. And even
Yeah.
if I told you what that acronym means, like ground fault circuit interrupter, you're like, well, that sounds even more scary, but if I say, hey, it's those little button things on the receptacles, and whenever you hit one, it'll pop out. That's protecting you from electricity. They're usually by something water wise. They're easy to have changed out by an electrician or a handyman or a comfortable homeowner that knows how to do that. And they're not terribly expensive. And that sounds a lot better. I always like to say, it'd be like, a doctor coming in and being like, you got coffeeitis. And then they leave the room and you're like, all right, well, that's scary. What do I do? But if he stays there or she stays there and it's like, hey, just quit having 4 pops of coffee a day and you'll be good. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a lot better. So I think having that approach really, because as there's not going to be any property that we're not going to find something.
Exactly.
If you have an inspector and they say, "Oh, everything's good. I didn't see anything wrong,"
You
no,
should get a different one.
get a different one. Even brand new builds. I mean,
Yeah.
people think that they're buying something built brand new, and we found so many things on some brand new builds that kind of you're like, get an inspection on everything.
We had one. Well, I've had a couple in the past on new builds. We one probably 6 or 7 years ago that the whole house was wired backwards. All the outlets were wired backwards.
Wow. Yeah. That's
And we had another one about 4 years ago that the roof was already bad. The shingles had granular loss and all sorts of stuff.
you're like,
Uh, to find out that it was actually a recall on the shingle. So, it got replaced again
yeah.
on a brand new house.
But
Literally, it wasn't even. They didn't even have the certificate of occupancy yet.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's crazy that it degraded so quickly. But if you didn't have it inspected, who's getting on a roof? I mean, you probably don't take many clients on a roof.
no,
you
no,
know? Those are some of
Never.
the areas. Roof, attic area, if it's got a crawl space. I mean, like, those are some areas where you find some scary stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, even we've seen brand new builds with engineered truss issues already breaking and stuff like that before anyone's even living there, you know?
Yep.
Or somebody's messed up, you know, they cut into it and then they, you know, like try and
Don't.
sister it on. And I'm like, you
Yep.
can't do that with an engineered truss.
So Bryan, how do people get a hold of you to have you come out and do their home inspection for them?
Yeah, we can be reached on our office line is 316-535-0900. And then you can go on at www.ictpro inspections.com, and that gets you our website where you can do your scheduling and things like that. So, and then emails info at ICT Pro Inspections. So multiple different ways, you know, in this world we've got to have. And you can also follow us. We're on Facebook. We're on the Gram, as apparently everyone calls it. And we're on TikTok. We're, you know, all the social media platforms. We try and have some presence on there,
Yep.
so people can follow us, and then Google and YouTube and stuff like that. So do some different interesting videos as you've seen
Yep.
on those.
Well, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Larry, I really appreciate it, man. Always good to work with you, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
You too. We'll see ya.
All right, thanks. Bye.